Hey everyone, I'm Devin, your friendly neighborhood board gamer, and this is Devin Talks Tabletop, the YouTube channel where the games are made up. What I say doesn't matter, but today maybe it matters a little bit because I'm going to be bragging on some people. I'm going to be bragging on my favorite board game publishers. And this is not meant to be an exclusionary list. I know that it may seem exhaustive because it's a long list, but it's really not. These are just the ones that I tried to remember everybody, and I know that even with double and triple checking, there's going to be ones that fall through the cracks that I'm forgetting, and as soon as I remember them, I'm like, oh, this is a massive blunder. How on earth could I have forgotten those people? But it's not meant to be who isn't there. It's meant to really just share with you publishers. Maybe you're not aware of them. Maybe you haven't really looked into their catalog, but these are either publishers with games I have a very deep connection to, or publishers that plus also I just love the people that work there and they're just good people. And so this is kind of a list of all of the publishers that I have started to become close to or I'm connected to in some capacity over the course of my time with board games. Starting off with one that I really don't have any personal connection to at all, and it's just that it's a publisher that has so many titles that are favorites of mine, and that is Fantasy Flight Games. So Fantasy Flight Games, I don't know them. I know that they're huge, and I know that they're up in, I think, Minnesota, St. Paul, Minneapolis area. But Fantasy Flight Games has got so many titles that have been classics for me or like massively influential in what my opinions are of board games. And they still are to this day. I love Space Hulk Death Angel, which is a more recent acquisition, but I have loved Fantasy Flight for Forbidden Stars, Star Wars Rebellion, Letters from Whitechapel. There are games of theirs that I've loved that I've gotten rid of. I've gotten rid of Star Wars Imperial Assault. I've gotten rid of Mansions of Madness. But I also love Twilight Imperium 4th Edition. So many games they have, I think, are titans in their respective genres. And I'm really a big fan of a lot of titles from Fantasy Flight Games. So they're kind of like my oldie but goodie. I really do appreciate so many games that Fantasy Flight has put out over the years. Then starting next, there are some that were really just publishers who I started relatively early on building a relationship with and whose games I have covered ever since. And I both enjoy their games and also find them very wonderful as people. So Manor Games, you've got Mike over there. Mike sent me my first game. He sent me Set a Watch, which was a lot of fun and it's still in my collection. And he's a thoroughly fantastic person. And there are a lot of games that have come out since from Flyos or from Manor. Spoiler alert, someone else will pop up on the list. So Manor is just has a special place in my heart because it was there from the very outset when I started to not play board games, but actually try to review and create content for board games. So Manor's up there. Burnt Island Games is also there. So, you've got Helena and Josh and Sean, and that is one of my favorite trios in board games. They're just super, super genuine and wonderful people. And they also, In Too Deep is one of my favorite games. It's really, really, really sharp. I like it a lot. I don't think it gets enough love. I know that the Hall of the Mountain King and Fall of the Mountain King are probably their more popular ones in recent years, along with Endeavor Age of Sail, which is, being remastered into Endeavor Deep Sea. So I definitely think they have a lot of strong titles. They also have the Kids Table board gaming line, which has Creature Comforts. It's got Power Plants. It's got Maple Valley. It's got, Fossilis. It's got so many titles that are also there. So they really have two different publishing companies that have existed in my orbit for a while. But, for Burnt Island, that's kind of like my sweet spot, my home. And so those are wonderful people there. I really like Burnt Island Games. If you have not ever tried In Too Deep, you should play it. I think it's exceptional. Chip Theory Games, that's someone who, if you've watched the channel for very long, I really, really, really like Chip Theory. They're amazing people. They're just so kind. They're so thoughtful. They're so, I think, grateful for their position in the industry and want to give back to other publishers and then the community at large. So, I have Cloudspire over there. I have Burn Cycle right there. I have Too Many Bones in a trove chest back at my house. I think they make exceptional games. I think they make very unique games that are very specific to them as a publisher and the style that they bring in terms of their designs. And they're also just awesome. They're also just awesome people. And so I love Chip Theory Games. I will go out on a limb and fall on my sword for them. Flyos Games, verbal slip earlier when I was talking about Rock Manor. Flyos is someone who I was first familiar with them or became aware of them whenever I did some coverage on Until Daylight, which they are re-skinning and have a new version of that coming out. But I think for them, it's just a company that I'm incredibly proud of. You have Thomas and Gary there, and they've grown an entire team around them. It was just the two of them. And when they took on this massive project from World of Darkness and Paradox and stuff, then they took on Vampire the Masquerade Chapters, which is one of my most anticipated games and has been since it was announced, since I got to play it early on in very early stages. And it's a narrative experience that I can't wait for. It's a world that is rich and engrossing. And I think that they are an example of a small publisher who just really made the right decisions and grew in the right ways. And I'm so proud of the product that they have been able to push. And now they've also got Werewolf the Retaliation coming out. So Flyos to me is definitely one to watch. And I've been so excited to see their journey from the small partnership that Thomas and Gary had and what it grew into since then. Another one is Arcane Wonders. This is, I would say, relatively new for me in terms of their games, but not as new for me in terms of relationships. So, I met Robert at a convention not too long ago. Him and Julie have been just wonderful people and good friends. And I have played more and more of their titles in the last 18 months and really come to appreciate a lot of them. I think Air, Land, and Sea or Critters at War, I think are absolutely fantastic little two-player card games. Foundations of Rome is something that should not exist, and it does, and it is just awesome. And everything about Foundations of Rome makes me happy. And I know that it's kind of absurdist in some aspects, but it definitely makes it work, and I think it's awesome. Arcane Wonders got a lot of other stuff. Onitama is something that I just recently played not too long ago, just got introduced to it, and I really like it. So I want to check that out more because I like abstract games like that, especially ones that grow strategically. So Arcane Wonders has a lot of titles that I think are really strong and good and definitely make me enjoy their catalog at large, but also Robert is just fantastic. Orange Nebula is also a newer one for me. I just recently got to the table my copy of Unsettled, and I had an absolute blast. I thought it was a really, really good game. Orange Nebula is something for me that I actually cared about them as people before their games because I met Tom and I met Mark and I met their team that they bring to conventions. And Orange Nebula, they're just gems. They're super good humans. And they have an incredible passion for making games that matter and that they're excited and passionate about and that bring, a certain level of innovation to what is seen in the industry. So I really enjoyed Unsettled. I cannot wait to get my trade-in copy of Vindication that I'm getting because I had a thoroughly good time playing that. And then also, I can't wait to learn more about Spiritfire. So Orange Nebula, people before games, but that doesn't matter because the games are exceptional as well. Lucky Duck Games. Lucky Duck for me has been interesting because I really didn't have a huge connection with their titles, and it was really more at Gamma this past year. I just saw Sean and Bree were at the booth, and they were kind of needing some help, and so I wasn't doing anything at the time, and I decided to help them. And that kind of sparked what has become a very close and affectionate friendship with a lot of people on their team. I love Bree to death. I love Sean. They're awesome. They have, Vince is just a darling, and he has brought a lot of competent people to his team. Scott Morris is awesome. Chris, who is kind of like their event planner and designer now, he is a super nice guy. And I really like a lot of the people that have worked for them, Az and Carly and all these other individuals that have been on the Lucky Duck team just kind of confirm for me how good that group is and how talented they are. They know what they're doing. They're good at their jobs, but they're also just, a very warm and inviting place to be around because they're fantastic people. So Lucky Duck, I've worked conventions for them a couple different times now, and then also I've through the connection to them and conventions, I've slowly accrued quite a few of their titles, and I like their games as well. And they do a really good job building narrative and immersive worlds with hybrid games. They've got The Dark Quarter partnered with Van Ryder coming out, and then they also are doing really excellent at acquiring, or in terms of like acquisition. Like they're working with Cardboard Alchemy to do retail, and they've got Oros coming out retail, and it's like Lucky Duck has slowly pulled in even other like publishers or designers that I appreciate and love, and they're bringing them like into like this larger conglomerate, and so I really enjoy them. Speaking of Van Ryder's also on here. AJ and Byron are just they're so nice. I love them. They're sweet people, and I'm ecstatic about the success that Final Girl has had. Final Girl is such a fun thematic solo game, and the stupendous like rising star level that game has brought them is just phenomenal, and I'm thankful for what they've been able to push into and grow because of the success of that. That makes me really happy. And then also the fact that Julie is there now means that there's just even more people on their team that I care about and I love. So for sure, Van Ryder is another big one for me. And they're also not too far away. They're one of the few publishers that, in Nashville, not too far off. And so, could conceivably, go visit them if I ever wanted to, or had the time. I always want to visit all of these people, but I don't really have the time. Simon is on here as well. I love so many of the team members that are there. You have Jeff and you have Travis and you have so many individuals that have like really talented, really professional, and have helped bring Simon a lot of success. But also, however much you want to push or lean into the narrative of like what people feel about them as a Kickstarter company, they consistently bring games that I think attract joy at the table. Cthulhu, Death May Die, Zombicide, Marvel United, Blood Rage, Rising Sun. All of these titles that are over there are ones that I know people adore. And the ones that I've played, I have a really, really good time with. So to me, they're kind of like Fantasy Flight games, but I also know them. Fantasy Flight, I have no personal attachment to really any of them. I don't know anybody there. But at Simon, I do know people, and that helps because when I know someone, it makes me like them and games even more because I just get excited about the friendships and relationships that are formed. So Simon for me is one where their titles consistently do well, and even ones that don't seem like massive Kickstarter friendly titles like Modern Art, which is in the closet over there. I adore those. They're so much fun. Horrible Guild. Oh, Horrible Guild has a special place in my heart. I really, really like Horrible Guild. They used to be Horrible Games. Now they're Horrible Guild. They are one of the few companies on here that no matter what game of theirs I'm playing, I'm like, oh yeah, Horrible Guild made this game. And like I've got Tiny Turbo Cars there, over at my house. I've got Vampire Vendetta and other titles, and they just have such a fantastic production value and a very unique design direction for each of their titles. They're nothing alike, but I adore them. Railroad Inc. is like my favorite roll and write that I've played. I just have a really, really, really good time with all the Horrible Guild titles. And I had the opportunity to meet Matteo and Alessandro and some of the other team members at Essen, and they're all, just heartwarming individuals. They're super nice. And they just have an infectious energy about them in terms of like their excitement, enthusiasm for their games. So Horrible Guild is another big one for me. Good Games Publishing. Oh, Kim. I love Kim so much. Kim is the coolest dude. He's incredibly tall, got awesome hair, and just you could listen to Kim talk about anything and it would be interesting. He's got that like amazing Australian drawl. And he cares about games. He cares about games. He cares about the industry, and he cares about making sure as many people have access. No gatekeeping involved. Just people want to play games, and he wants to create good games for those people. So I have a lot of respect for Kim. He's an awesome individual, and I like their titles as well. I think Land vs. Sea is a Carcassonne killer. I think it's an awesome game, and if you haven't played it, you definitely should. But Good Games Publishing all the way Good Games Publishing in Australia, along with the Board Game Barbecue, are two things that I'm like, I really need to go to Australia so I can hang out with my friends there. Then you got Free League Publishing, which I just recently did an unboxing of the Blade Runner role-playing game. They're one of my favorite, or they are my favorite role-playing game publishers, but they also have the Tales from the Loot board game, so they are a board game publisher in that respect. But they're just, oh man, such a fantastically talented group of people. The writers that they have for that, the production and design savvy that's at that studio, like they're just so good. Free League Publishing is so good. If you care about RPGs at all, you should check them out. Inside Up Games, Connor, the nicest Canadian known to man. He's got the best hugs. He's the best hugger, which I know you're like, Devin, I care about board games. I don't care about people who hug. Like, you should. You should care about people who hug. Because if you got hugged by Connor, problems would be solved in the world. He could solve some conflicts. Maybe not global conflicts, but he could solve some local level conflicts by giving out hugs. Connor's fantastic. His team is awesome. They're so nice. I try to hang out with them every convention and say boo. And they've got, such unique different titles that all are kind of maybe similar. Maybe they're the Canadian Horrible Guild because all of their titles are very like divergent from each other, but they really do kind of like have some level of DNA that I'm like, oh yeah, this totally makes sense that Inside Up is publishing this. So Inside Up Games, love them. And then you've got Clay over at Capstone Games. Capstone Games is really awesome. They've got Watergate. They've got Arc Nova. They've got so many different titles that are there. So many like big hits that really deserve the level of attention and praise that they get because they're just awesome games. Clay's an incredibly nice guy. He always brings a really, really good booth and demo team. Some of my friends in the industry, Joseph, if you're watching, like people who work at the Capstone booth always know that they're going to be like awesome people. So definitely have enjoyed getting to know Clay and seeing the Capstone Games booth at all the conventions that I go to. Shadowborn Games, this is a new one for me in terms of meeting people. So this is Jamie Jolly and then also Bastian Weimar and Toby. Bastian, Toby, and Jamie are just three awesome people, and I know that there's other members on their team. I'm referring to the Toby. I haven't ever got to meet Toby O'Hara in person. I was talking to Toby that I know, who I worked with at Essen, and so the four of us had a really, really good time. I love all of them. They've done something exceptional with Oathsworn. I think Oathsworn is just going to be a long-term giant in the industry. I think that it is a really, really, really good game, and it deserves to be here for just as long as some of the biggest titles in the industry for sure. So Shadowborn, I cannot wait to see where they go next with what they're doing, whether it's Oathsworn 2 or whether it's something else, but I really like them. The best Brits I know in terms of publishing company there. So really like Shadowborn Games a lot. Druid City Games, you've got James Hudson, Wonderland's War, Tidal Blades, Tidal Blades Banner Festival, Tidal Blades, Rise of the Unfolders, all that kind of stuff. James really knows he knows the industry really well. He's incredibly insightful, and he's got such a good acumen for what makes sense on the publishing side and what makes sense on marketing, and his games are really, really solid. I love Wonderland's War. It was one of my favorites of 2022. And I finally tracked down a copy of Tidal Blades, but I have not purchased it or played it. I have purchased it. I have it. I just haven't played it. But his other games are great as well. So definitely love Druid City Games. Anytime I get to talk with James is such an informative and enjoyable conversation. So he's fantastic. Ivy Games, I love them. I've got Mythic Mischief here. I've got Veiled Fate at my house. I love Moonrakers. Anything that they do, I keep my eye on. Austin and Max are two fantastic people. I just really, really enjoy getting to spend time with them. And, anytime I get to talk with, Austin and Max and Sam and Zach, they're just good people. They're just good people. Their Discord community is off the charts. If you like going to an engaged and, really, really good community of people, the Discord community for Ivy Games is next level. They are awesome people there. So should definitely check them out. But yeah, Austin and Zach and Sam, like that trio that are there at Ivy Games, they're fantastic. I know Austin the most. I've spent the most time chatting with him, and he's wonderful. But they also just have really, really good games. They know what they're doing. They make great titles. So Ivy Games, another one in Nashville that's not too far from me. So they're fantastic. Roxley Games. Roxley Games is another one that I became aware of earlier on in my content creation cycle. Paul Saxberg is just the best human. He's so nice. He's so encouraging. He's so warm. He's so receptive to people who have questions or who are new to the industry, and he's so supportive of people who are trying to get things started. When I was a nobody, they sent me Dice Throne, and they sent me Brass Birmingham in Lancashire, and they sent me other titles of theirs, and I got to experience those and do content on those, and they're such good games. Their Roxley production value is wow, so good. Like they set a high bar every single time. Like High Rise, the one that's, oh my gosh, just insane. But I just love their titles too. Dice Throne is amazing. It is such a fun clash up. I think Marvel Dice Throne is a genius IP for them to have attached to that type of game. It works really, really well. And then their other titles. Brass Birmingham is like one of my favorite Euros that I've ever played. I really, really enjoy it. And then they've got so many other ones. Radlands is exceptional. Anything with Manny Tremblay's art is just, please sign me up for it. So Roxley, another Canadian crew. Just so many good Canadians on the list. But for sure, I really love Roxley Games. If you haven't checked out their titles, you should. Stonemire Games. Jamie has always been such an amenable personality. He's always been very communicative over email. I have been reviewing his games for a long time. I haven't done a lot of content, or I haven't played a lot of Stonemire titles, in terms of recent ones in my but I've done it for so long that I feel still connected to and familiar with what they've got going on. Amber really likes Tapestry, so we play Tapestry a lot. And for sure, I've had a good relationship and a good experience diving into those games, and they are kind of just like Fantasy Flight Games. There are a lot of Stonemire titles that I'm like, oh, this is marking points in my gaming life. So it is kind of like a nice nostalgic attachment to a lot of those. Tracy boards. Get a Crokinole board. Just do it. Get a Tracy Crokinole board, because it's so much fun. There are a few things. I love that game. I love Crokinole so much. And I know that it's expensive, but people spend just as much on Kickstarters. I play Crokinole so much compared to a lot of other titles that are in my collection. It's so easy to get out. When you play it for a while. Really, really good time. Yeah, Tracy boards, absolutely 100% solid. I love me some Tracy boards. Jeremy Tracy is also an amazing human. If we're talking about having a relationship, not just with a game, but with the people who do it, Jeremy Tracy is a darling human. He is a wonderful man. His wife Elaine she's awesome. She's really cool. I understand what it takes to rein in a maniac like him, and she does a good job. So no, Jeremy Tracy is awesome. Love him. And yeah, get a Crokinole board. Get a Tracy Crokinole board. Awaken Realms. Awaken Realms is, to me, kind of like the dreamers. They're just a crew of people who really want to, I feel like every game their mentality is, this is going to be our magnum opus. This is going to be our game, our big game. They've got stuff like ISS Vanguard. They've got The Great Wall. They've got Nemesis. They've got Tainted Grail. It's every big title that they put out is this cinematic, operatic experience, and they're this is what we want you to remember us by. And not everything always lands. They've got rough parts, rough patches to them. But I think that my favorite games a lot of times are the ones that aren't perfectly polished, because I feel like they have a higher ceiling. I feel like when you polish something so much and it shines so much, it may be consistently great, but sometimes the unpolished things can be amazing. And I really do think that Awaken Realms they have their eyes locked into the, that like corny thing where you're like, aim for the moon and you'll land among the stars, which doesn't really make any sense at the end of the day, like when you think about it scientifically or in terms of how astronomy works, because the stars are way farther than the moon. But you know what I mean. They're awesome. Awaken Realms. Can't wait for my Great Wall Pledge to come in, and I'm always excited to see what they do next. Cardboard Alchemy, Peter and Brad, just one of the slickest duos in the industry. They have an uncanny ability to craft some of the most exquisitely deluxe things you'll ever see. I've got Flamecraft over there, which that's the deluxe version, and it is sumptuous. I've got Mission Catastrophe, which is a masterpiece. And then, like, the tour de force to me is Dwellings of Eldervale. Oh my goodness, Dwellings of Eldervale. Like, they made that game shine. Oh, Cardboard Alchemy. Every time they make something, it's like, ooh, I want to touch that. I want to touch it. I want to play with it because they make such good crap. Oh, man. Cardboard Alchemy is like a relatively newer relationship for me to know Peter and Brad, but man, they know what they're doing. They do such a good job. I love me some Cardboard Alchemy titles, and I'm excited for Andromeda's Edge, and I'm excited for everything else too. And then the last one that I have on the list, but probably not the last one that's in my head. Like I said, there's ones that I probably forgot. The last one for me is probably the most recent entry in terms of publishers that I'm excited about, and that is Hachette. Hachette has definitely got a lot of... They've got Gigamic, they've got Studio H, they've got Sorry We Are French. They've got so many different like sub-publishers or sub-labels or imprints underneath them. And of course, now that like kind of Danny Lowe is at the helm of like marketing and reaching out and doing the relationship side of the industry, and she is incredibly talented, just definitely one of the most competent people I've seen in the industry in terms of their job. And so Danny's there now. And I love so many of the titles from them that I have seen recently. I really liked Nidavellir. I have that in my collection. I played that on BGA, but I have that in the first expansion. Really liked that. I had a lot of fun with Gosu X when I tried it out at PAX Unplugged. They've got so many other ones that I can't, like Turing Machine, and then there's so many of them that it's like actually overloaded my capacity to name all of them. But there's a bunch. It's the Galileo project, and then you've got what are some other ones? There's a bajillion, and so they really have like swung into the industry just relatively quickly, but they already have amassed like quite a substantial catalog of really like heavy hitters, like big like good titles. And with Danny there, like and the direction that they're headed, I think it's only up from here. So Hachette is certainly one that is also now on my radar. These are publishers I love. These are people that I always enjoy talking about, playing their games, and there are relationships that I have that are just kind of like starting off and getting off the ground, and maybe they'll be there the next time I look at this. But I love all of these games, and I love all of these people. Really, really solid people kind of all across the board. Let me know what your favorite publishers are. If there's ones in here that you haven't checked out their games, let me know which ones maybe sound the most interesting. And of course, I will try to do something which I don't normally do, which is add the links for all of these. So, hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye.